Hi, everybody. I'm Sabrina Rising, and welcome to my channel. And tonight I have with me my very special guest, Lacey
Mhm.
Rains, who is my intuitive support specialist. And I'm so happy to have you here, Lacey. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Sabrina.
Awesome. Tonight we're going to talk about intuition, psychic abilities, and mediumship skills. We're going to have a deep conversation about what intuition is, how we all have it, what our innate abilities are. We can cultivate them. And we'll also dive a little bit deeper into the clairs, and we'll talk a little bit about, what it means to be a psychic, what are psychic abilities, and how those unfold. They're different for each of us. And then we will also talk about the beauty of the mediumship world and connecting with our spirit guides, connecting with our loved ones. And we'll take some questions. If you're watching us live, please don't be shy. Type in your questions in the chat. Lacey will read them, and I will give you intuitive guidance on the spot so that you can have some insight and some relief. And so don't be shy. Go ahead and ask questions. Lacey, why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to this work and why you feel drawn to intuitive development?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I was always very interested in the spiritual world. My mom was actually very holistic, so holistic medicine, natural, medicine and things like that. So I kind of grew up around it, but as I grew older, I actually lost both my parents at a young age, and that's really what stemmed my own holistic journey. So not only the holistic medicine, but wanting to get rid of my why. I was always kind of in that mentality of like, why me? Or, kind of feeling like I was the victim. And so as I moved into my own healing journey, connecting with my own intuition and my own spirit guides, and really being able to bring that clarity to continue on, my journey and my path here.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So developing your intuition has helped you sort of find your place in the world, right? And
Absolutely.
I think that's a really important point, for our listeners. So many people come to this work wanting to get answers, right? And that's what we're opening up the forum here today, is for answers. Tell me what to do, give me the guidance, give me the direction on what I'm supposed to do with my life, where I'm supposed to go, what should I do, right? And this is the question that drives human behavior, as we've talked about before. And so many people come to this work wanting answers, and it's so important because as we learn to develop our own intuitive abilities, we realize that we already have the answers within us. It's just a matter of learning how to listen, right? So any good facilitator, any good intuitive guide or healer or spiritual teacher is going to hold space for you to learn how to listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because otherwise we just tell people what to do forever, and that doesn't necessarily foster a nurturing environment, a supportive environment that allows people to really feel empowered, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to listen to their own and develop their own intuitive abilities. The other thing I want to say too about developing our intuition and doing this intuitive work is, it's really important to have the foundations in place. Right.
Definitely.
So everybody has intuition. We all have innate abilities. We can all feel energy. We learn this from a very young age. We learn how to sense our environment, how to sense the mood, the tone of our environment, what our parents are feeling and not feeling, and what our caregivers are experiencing, and whether or not we feel safe. Right. So our own survival instincts will enable us to cultivate our intuitive abilities, because we're trying to keep ourselves safe, right? Because we're trying to learn how to fit in with our environment and be, receive approval, receive love, and all that stuff. So we start to develop our intuition early on without realizing it.
Yep.
Right. And so when we come to this work, we want to be able to develop these skills even further. And it's really important, and I say this to all of my clients, to do inner child work first, right? To do foundational work first. We
Yeah.
cannot develop the identity of an intuitive guide or a medium or a psychic, or have all these, lofty esoteric goals without doing the foundational work of healing your own unresolved fears, dealing with your limiting beliefs, dealing with early childhood trauma or trauma at any point in life, and really doing that work to be able to heal ourselves, right? So that when we come into intuitive development, we have good practices in place, right? So self-mastery, we have to master the world before we can transcend it. So self-mastery happens before we can develop our intuitive abilities, right? You need to have foundational work in place, like, for example, good energetic hygiene, a strong, solid spiritual practice, an ability to ground yourself, awareness. These are all things that we develop when we do basic inner work, right? Starting with meditation and things like that. And then we can sort of jump in and talk about more deeper intuitive concepts, right? What would you say about that, Lacey? How has it been for you coming into this work just to sort of heal yourself and then diving in a little bit deeper and using these tools to enhance your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So with my journey already, meditation was a big thing of where I started. Just really understanding how to ground myself was a big first start. And then also just kind of working with my spirit guides and understanding, different messages that are coming through, and trusting myself, and to understand, what's good, what's not, and to lead myself on that path. I think ultimately, as we grow, I had to go through a lot of different shadow work, and, that's the consistency. It's always a journey. No matter how much we think we healed, we have more to do, so it's always a never ending thing where we're always growing within our intuitive abilities.
Yeah.
And I'm at the place now where I do practice every day. I make sure to meditate and really take that time apart to center myself and to stay grounded. And that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you said that. I love that it's an ongoing evolutionary journey and that we're always healing ourselves. And in fact, if you feel drawn to this work and you really want to dive in and learn how to develop your own intuitive abilities, you will start to see, certain things come up that you haven't perhaps dealt with, right? Like certain things you'll bump up against certain fears that you didn't know were there, or you'll bump up against certain resistances or judgments or criticisms that you didn't know were there, and I know for my own path and my own practice, for many years I was very sort of focused on doing things a certain way, and that it needed to be a certain way in order for the path to be pure and clear and consistent for me and for all human beings, only to realize, of course, there's 10,000 ways to God, right? There's 10,000 ways to liberate ourselves. And so it's really important when we talk about these topics, like learning to be an intuitive. What does it mean to be psychic? What is it, what is mediumship? Is it real? Like, can we really talk to our loved ones? I get this question all the time, and of course this is a mainstream thing. It's not like it's a common practice to be able to, I don't know if it's a common practice, but I think mediumship has become much more mainstream than when I first started holding space. And, I think it's important as we explore these modalities that we understand that every single one of these tools is really just about learning to connect to our essence, right? Yeah. Learning to connect to, higher self, to source energy, to the essence that animates this physical vessel. That's us. Mm-hmm. And just being able to tap into other realms is not only normal and natural, it's our birthright. It's our birthright to be able to tap into this magic and to use it for good, to use it to better our lives and ultimately to better the lives of other people.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, good. So let's talk about intuition. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So everybody has the ability to see, to feel, to know, to sense, right? As I mentioned, we learned this in early childhood where we develop this ability to just kind of, just, am I safe, right? Mm-hmm. What does the energy of this feel like? What is the, you look at the impression of your parents, for example, or the look on their face when you've done something wrong and you just know instantly, right? And so we all have this innate knowingness of like, what's up in this moment? What is that person feeling? We talk about, being empaths and being able to feel what other people are feeling. Empathy is a form of intuition. Right. So it's an intuitive ability to be able to feel what another person's feeling or feel the energy of the room or feel what's going on in the environment. And so developing our intuition is just being able to take that natural skill that we have and expanding it. Mm-hmm. Right? And the more that we clear away all of the judgments and all of the filters we have around our own wounding, the more we peel back those layers. That's why the inner child work is so important. The more we can feel and sense and experience energy beyond the immediate.
Right. Yes.
You just kind of take information in. It's like once you clear away all the static, you can hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yep.
an intuitive guide myself, when I'm reading energy or I'm giving a reading, I mean, I feel very clear. I feel very
Yes.
clear about who I'm seeing, what I'm reading, what's happening, what the information is coming through. I'm open because I don't have any judgments about
Yep.
what I could possibly hear. I don't have any. I don't feel closed off to anything in particular. I feel pretty open, and and of course, I'm always evolving too. So this is, but what it is, it's kind of like you take that little spark of awareness that we all have, right? And you expand upon it, and you use your intentionality. This is so important. You use your intentionality to penetrate what I mean in technical terms, the electromagnetic field of your environment, to be able to feel into what's happening, what's being said, what's being offered, whatever the question is, so that you can sense the answer. This is so important for people watching live or watching the replay. All of the information that has ever happened, that ever existed, that everything that's ever happened in the world exists in universal intelligence. So it's just a matter of getting still, getting quiet, and opening up our minds, letting go of judgments, and trusting what we sense in our bodies, right? Trusting that first response is always the correct one, right? Why don't you talk to me a little bit about how you trust your intuition? What's your process?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it is just the energy. Once you start to trust, the more you trust, the more you start to trust more, I guess, in a way. You actually just shared an energy hack the other day, and that's something I like to do a lot too, is just muscle testing and really just sitting and listening to our bodies, and even asking questions that are true to get the yes answer, to start to understand, how our bodies move and how we're feeling. And then that can take it, deeper into the questions that you actually want divine guidance on. And that's a big thing that I've always practiced.
Yeah, good. I think muscle testing is a great entryway. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a great entry point into developing the ability to feel. Okay, so let's just for practical terms, and we're going to talk about the course that we're launching that is opening up tomorrow. The first step in really being able to feel into energy is just listening to your body. Okay. So we were talking about muscle testing. In muscle testing, all we're really testing for is truth or the absence of it.
Yes.
Right. Or you could say love and the absence of it, whatever resonates more for you. Everybody's, you're all your own unique individuals. Everyone will learn how to tap into energy in their own unique way. But we're looking for what is bringing life, what is positive, right? What feels like a yes, right? In technical terms, versus what feels like a no, right? What feels like a retraction, what feels like it's taking life away.
Yeah.
Depending on what framework you're looking at, it's either yes or it's no. It's either giving energy or taking energy away. It's either a positive experience or it's a negative experience, right? Or and I don't even like to use the word negative, because no is not necessarily negative. It's just no, right? So we're testing for truth or the absence of it. We're testing for, what does this actually feel like? Is this a yes or is that a no, right? When we start with yes, no questions. This is a basic how to develop your intuition. Start with yes, no questions. Now, in the muscle testing video that we shared the other day, we were talking about, just so that in case people missed it, we're talking about holding an object to decide whether or not whatever the contents of this object is good for you. You can do this with supplements. You can do it with cosmetics. You can do it with a book. You can do it with, certain teachings. You can do it with a picture of someone you love or don't love, depending on. So everything has vibration. And if you hold whatever it is that you have a question about in your hand, and you feel yourself being pulled forward, in my case, it's being pulled forward. To me, that's a yes, right? There's a resounding yes. I can feel my cells open up. I can feel my cells expand and say, yes, give me more of this.
Yeah.
And if you feel yourself pulling back, we know, as we talked about that, we know that is a no. That means energy is being drained from the body. It is not uplifting. It doesn't serve our highest and best good. And we use this ability to sense the difference between yes and no, and we start to expand upon that. When we start to read energy, we start to expand upon the yes and the no, and then more information starts to trickle in. When we link in, right? When we link in, more information starts to trickle in and say yes and I'm also saying this, right? And so as we start to open ourselves up to intuitive abilities, of course, through, we'll in the class that we're teaching, we're going to talk about meditation practices. We're going to talk about, how to get yourself centered and grounded and open to receiving messages. Once we start feeling into energy, information starts to come through. And this is true for anybody who can find that point of stillness, who can let go of judgments, and who can open their heart to fully receiving information coming in through divine universal intelligence.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's definitely a big thing for me. And then there was one question I was going to ask you, just
Sure.
for myself, I guess, with the process of like, how can someone tell the difference between, the thoughts in our head? Like, is that our ego, or is that, the message coming through from our guides? Like, how do you differentiate when those messages are coming through?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, good. And we're going to talk a lot about that in the 8-week Way of the Mystic course, especially in the second week. We're going to talk about how to discern the difference between ego and intuition and, fantasy and truth, right? So oftentimes when we are using our intuitive abilities is because we want to know the answer to something, right? We feel drawn to like, what's going to happen? What should I do? So this question automatically, when you have this question at this, how do I want to answer this? In order to have this question, you have to be in a place of a not knowing, right? The not knowing creates this question.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're in a place of not knowing, and especially if you have an attachment to an outcome, if you have a certain preference or you want things to work out in a certain way and so on, this can all get in the way of you being able to get a clear signal and really trust your own intuitive guidance. Right. So if you're in that place of confusion and not knowing, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? The first step would be to get still, to ground, to breathe, to center yourself, to close your eyes, engage in an inward gaze, and really just trust that the answers exist.
Yes.
They are, and you have access to them. And this is number one, is the belief that you can tap into your higher self, to universal intelligence. To me, these are synonyms of each other. And you can receive this information to serve your highest and best good. Okay, so the first step is belief, just like any other process of transformation, right? Or guidance or experience, whatever it is that you want to create in your life, it starts with a belief that you can access it, right?
Yeah.
Just opening ourselves up to this idea that the answer is here. It's right here and it's right now, And so that's number one. Number two, when you ask a question, whatever the question is, you have to be willing to let go of your attachment. Right? You have to be just in complete surrender. Surrender feels like leaning in, relaxing, being open, and just trusting that whatever information comes through is what's going to serve your highest and best good. Surrender is a tough one for most people in general.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with that for a while. I think that was a big thing. But the more that you surrender and the more you trust, the more you see the outcomes and, the more trust that comes with it.
100%. So surrender requires deep trust, as you said. And it's very helpful to have this implicit understanding that whatever's unfolding is actually serving your highest and best good.
Yes.
Right. So if you don't know that, then the idea of surrendering can feel really scary. Like, what am I surrendering to? What if I fall? What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? What if I get my heart broken? What if I lose everything? What if everything gets ripped from me? What if I'm abandoned? Whatever your fears are will get triggered in the process of surrendering if you don't know inherently that there is an energetic safety net underneath you. There is one underneath every single one of us, right? We each have this energetic safety net's going to catch us if we leap, right? And it will take us to it will either get us what we want, or it will get us closer to knowing what it is that we want. Yes. Right. And so when we're developing our intuition, it's really important to give ourselves grace and to know that you're not always going to get it right. When I give readings, I tell people, listen, this is not an exact science. I tune in and I get, as much accuracy as I have access to, and as that person is willing to offer, because readings are a two-way transactional, like it's a mutual exchange of energy. So, you have to be willing to be read, and I have to, of course, be willing to read and serve, as that's what happens when we're holding space. And And so being able to be in that energy with someone, requires surrender, and it also requires grace, because you may not always get it right. You may get little bits of information that come through that don't necessarily make sense, and so when you talk about ego versus imagination, or ego versus, intuition, or truth versus imagination, we're talking about not interpreting the messages that you receive. We don't want to interpret them. Okay. We want to just listen and hear whatever for some of us, and we're going to talk about the clairs here in a moment. For some of us, we see, for some of us, we hear, we feel, we sense, we smell, we taste, there's all these different ways of sensing energy. It's really important not to interpret those messages and to create a story around what we're experiencing, so that we can offer clear guidance, right? Because then you're inserting your own ego, your own your own stories, your own views of what's coming through, and that's when it starts to become inaccurate.
Yes.
And so on. If you are doing intuitive work for your own life, if that's, obviously that's where you're starting, and you're trying to access universal intelligence and really feel into what the answer is, or what's going to serve your highest and best good, and you have an attachment to an outcome, for example, as I mentioned earlier, that unless you're able to release that, that's going to interfere with whatever guidance you receive. Right? And there's a very distinct quality when you move out of attachment and into openness and a willingness to just hear whatever serves your highest and best good. There's actually a lot of relief in your body. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
This is a good key indicator for those of you that are practicing developing intuition. See if you can, as you breathe and just tell yourself that you're willing to let go of the outcome and hear whatever truth is coming through, see if you can sense some relief in your own body. Just to know that you're taken care of. You can visualize this big energetic safety net that's going to catch you no matter what, right? There's no wrong choice. It's all learning, it's all growth, and it's all of it's karmic anyway. We're here to, go through the lessons that we came to cultivate and learn and grow from them. So I think that's a really good question, and I think it's important for people to know that you are going to hear your own interpretation. You're going to hear, just like when we decide to do something. For example, let's say I have a desire. I have the desire to try this new activity, or this new thing, and I'm not sure if I can do it. And, the voice of my ego kicks in and says, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm capable. What if I fail? What if I, that whole inner critic, the voice of the inner judger, will step in, start to distill the desire to move forward in something that feels good, that brings you joy.
Yeah.
And it's the same process when we're following our intuitive guidance. We want to trust the answer that comes through. And even if we don't like it, even if it's not what we want to hear, and just kind of zoom out and feel like, okay, this is actually what's going to serve my highest and best good, and I accept that. And the more we learn to trust, like you said earlier, Lacey, the stronger this muscle becomes, and the more we develop our own intuitive abilities in that way, the voice becomes louder. And the goal for anybody who is inspired to live an intuitively guided life is to learn how to make decisions from your heart.
Yes.
How to use universal intelligence to inform the next right step, and then ultimately, if you care about guiding others, you're going to use this ability to sense universal intelligence to offer other people guidance as well.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about our class, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, tomorrow we open up registration for the Way of the Mystic. The Way of the Mystic is an 8-week program that has all of my favorite things in it. And we talk about, what we're talking about tonight, which is intuitive development. And we talk a lot about how to prepare ourselves to develop our intuition, what goes into being an intuitive person, how to ground, how to, practice with ethics and safety and energetic hygiene. So how to do the foundational work so that we can really tune into our intuitive abilities. And we will spend a lot of time, figuring out what our strongest clair is, and discussing all of the clairs and how they all really work together in our own intuitive practice, and that will help you cultivate what yours is. And then we'll talk about reading energy and developing our psychic skills. And we'll spend a couple of weeks on mediumship work. And so if you have never talked to your loved ones and you want to connect with them, this is the place to do it. Okay. Everybody will walk away from this program knowing how to connect with their loved ones, having a way to link in that's safe and effective and that can really support you in your own life.
Yeah, I love that. I'm excited.
It'll be great. We're going to have a great time. Lacey will be with us throughout the entire program. She'll be supporting and participating and engaging in the exercises as well. And this program is for all skill levels. If you are just simply interested in developing your intuition, just dabbling, or if you're a seasoned intuitive expert and you want to come and just improve your skill set, we have lots of fun stuff in store for you. Lots of exercises, group work, and direct experiences of your own intuitive abilities and how powerful you are. So I'm excited for that.
Me too. I'm so excited. Do you want to talk a little bit about each of the clairs just to kind of give an idea of that?
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is the ability to see. This is the most common one. It's actually a rare gift to have in my experience. Clairvoyance is, again, our ability to see, what's in front of us, to be able to see beyond this third dimensional reality. And just, we kind of get visions, images, like if I'm doing a reading for someone, sometimes I'll see their parents, or I'll see their loved one, or I'll see their child, or I'll see someone who is connected to their immediate environment. And then there's either a message or information that's coming through for that purpose. Again, it's so important that we reiterate that everybody has all of the clairs. And so it's a matter of developing them. What happens over the conditioning process is that we lose touch with our intuitive abilities, right? We get disconnected from our ability to know, sense, and feel, especially when we have caregivers or superiors or authorities telling us, no, that's not what you're feeling isn't true, or don't feel that, feel this instead. So it's, I just want to reiterate that as we're talking about the clairs. So clairvoyance is the ability to see. So if you're receiving messages, maybe you're talking to someone and all of a sudden there's something that comes through, that's clairvoyance. Oh, I'm seeing this for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what's present, that would be clairvoyance. And then we have, clairaudience, which is the ability to hear. Sometimes you hear voices, or you hear messages, or you hear, somebody whispering something, or somebody saying something in a reading. That is our ability to hear guidance, right? And so again, sensing and picking up on this type of guidance is all about letting go of judgments, trying not to interpret the messages, and just being open to whatever's coming through. Okay. And then we have clairgustance, I believe it's called. That was a new one that I learned in the process of developing this class, which is the ability to taste, right? The ability to taste things. And often I didn't know there was a name to this. I'll be transparent about that. Oftentimes, if I'm doing readings for people and I can all of a sudden I can taste, tobacco, or I can taste a certain type of alcohol, or I can taste a certain type of, depending on who I'm reading for, right? So this can happen, especially in mediumship work, when you're calling in other, loved ones that have crossed over. You can start to feel, sense, and taste and experience whatever they're experiencing as evidence that you're communicating with these loved ones.
Yeah, I love that. That's a new one for me too. But after I read it, I was like, I can see that. I have experienced that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have the list of all the clairs, so I make sure I don't forget them?
Yeah, clair empathy.
Yeah. So clair empathy is just the ability to really feel what another person's feeling. It's no different than the empathy that we know. Oftentimes these labels can be very distinctive, but it's just the ability to really sense another person's emotions. Okay? So sometimes in clair empathy, if a person is experiencing a lot of sadness, you can feel the emotion. Sometimes I get emotional, or I feel like crying when I'm reading for someone, because that's what they've got bottled up. Okay. And so if you're a really empathetic person, so many people are, this is clair empathy.
Yeah, I love that. Clairsalence.
This is the ability to smell.
Mhm.
So smelling is also a relatively rare one. It's when you can smell certain smells, or let's say you walk into a room and all of a sudden there's a smell there, or there's a perfume, or there's something you have that isn't normal for that this particular moment. If it just seems like it's coming out of the blue, this is your ability to smell certain things.
Yeah.
And so that can happen in readings too, especially when we're doing mediumship work, where you start to smell food cooking, or you start to smell, a person's cologne, for example.
Mhm.
This can happen very often. So again, we all have all of them. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of tuning in and giving ourselves permission to go as deep as we can, so we can not interpret what we're experiencing and just relay the message.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
The other one would be claircognizance.
Yeah. This is our ability to know, right?
Mhm.
Our ability to know and really trust our own inner knowing, being able to sort of, when you just trust that hit that comes through the solar plexus. For me, that's where I feel it. It's where I just know this in this moment, this is what's true, right? Based on so many years of muscle testing, and as we talked about earlier, and just developing that muscle of knowing what's true, if this is accurate, if this is a yes, if this is a no, just knowing that. Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's all of them. I think we've covered all of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good.
So with that being a part of the program, I guess one question I was going to ask was just like, we talked about the development of intuitive development and
Mhm.
mediumship. We're going to go into the clairs. So with this program, what would you say is different from, other spiritual programs that are out there, and what makes ours, different with the psychic development side of it?
Yeah, I think that what makes this one different, I mean, I'm sure there's other people doing really good work as far as, spiritual development and intuitive development is concerned. And there's certainly room for all different types of teachings. I think that, I feel very strongly that this program really prepares people. It really covers a lot of the foundational work that allows us to practice with integrity, with ethics, an understanding of what we're doing, of what we're creating, how to keep ourselves safe, how to keep others safe, how to relay accurate messages. So the integrity piece is something I feel very passionate about. I think in the intuitive arts is such a, it's such a pseudoscience that it's not really regulated or quantifiable. I mean, of course, you can't argue with results if you're doing readings and you're delivering accurate messages. I mean, that's enough, right? That's what has created this practice and has legitimized it over time. The ability to give psychic readings or do mediumship work. But ultimately, it's really important how we handle our health and our bodies and our intention and being able to develop the whatever muscle is strongest for us in the clairs, whichever one is our strongest one. Being able to have we're going to talk about very specific practices to tune into the spirit realm so we can develop our mediumship skills. So there's ways in which we can do this that again require us always to keep ourselves in integrity, so to hold ourselves accountable to proper energetic hygiene and good foundational principles, so that we can practice safely and effectively. And what I love about this program too is the community, so the support of learning with like-minded people who are seekers just like you, who are practicing, there's no pressure to get it right or to do it right, or to you know to to shine. Even it's just a matter of learning and having fun and healing. The point, especially in my opinion, the point of mediumship is to help you grieve and to help you accept what's happened, and to help us acknowledge that love doesn't die, it just changes form, right? It's just a matter of being able to connect to that experience of everlasting love. And so so I think it's jam-packed full of stuff.
Yes.
We cover many
Mhm.
things. We have a week where we talk about telepathy and psychometry and remote viewing, which is very exciting. Again, we all have these abilities. It's just a matter of practicing them, and it's interesting to see what people are drawn to. like what they feel more drawn to, and what, if they're more drawn to reading objects versus reading, energy humans, reading cards. And we're going to spend some time in divination tools as well as an extension of who we are, being able to really step into those and see what works for everybody. Everybody is different. So you'll discover your unique blueprint for your intuitive gifts and how you're here to express them.
What are some of your favorite divination tools?
Well, I love my pendulum. I usually don't leave home without it. It's always with me, and again, the pendulum is an extension of who we are, right? So I usually know what the next right move is or what the next right answer is. And it's just a matter of trusting that. And if I feel a bit wobbly, then I usually use my pendulum for confirmation. I like to check and see what the universe has to say, which is by yourself, like if I'm feeling a moment of doubt and I can't get still and connected and clear, the pendulum is a wonderful tool for, again, we're testing for the truth in the absence of truth, right? So is it a yes or is there a no, right? And that is the foundation for all intuitive work. What about you? What are some of your favorite ones?
I love my oracle cards, my tarot cards. That's my go-to typically.
Yeah.
That's usually where I start.
That's good. What ones do you use? Just a regular tarot?
I have the Moonology is one of my favorite oracles when I want to go deep. I love the answers that I get from that one. And then I have a Nightmare Before Christmas tarot deck. That's been my favorite. It's one that's always been with me. So when I'm really needing, the not so nice answers, that's usually my go-to.
That's amazing. I didn't know there was a Nightmare Before Christmas tarot deck. That's amazing.
Yes.
Very cute. My daughter would probably love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cute. Great. I mean, again, all these tools have wonderful merit. They're all really good. They're all really they're there to help guide us into whatever it is that we want to utilize and whatever it is that we want a confirmation from, so whether it's cards or runes or, divination rods or the pendulum, it's always an extension of us, and being able to rely on these tools gives us a reflection of what our higher self already knows. Right?
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. I think writing and journaling too. Journaling is a big one for me. I feel very clear with, to start learning how to trust my intuition. I was big into journaling and free writing, and that's been a big help too.
Yeah. Wonderful. Good. So let's see. Do we have any questions here? Let's see. All right. For those of you watching, if you want to jump on and ask some questions, we'll be happy to receive your questions. I'm happy to offer on-the-spot intuitive guidance. Is my favorite part of this work. Let's talk a little bit about mediumship and how that's different from psychic abilities. So a psychic ability is our ability to penetrate the energy. So for example, if you gave me permission to read your energy, I can sort of say, okay, so I can intentionally move into your field and tell you what I think is going on with you. And my process would be to start with the physical and then go move into the emotional, which is my area of expertise, and then move into the spiritual, which is always what's out of alignment whenever there are issues in our lives. Okay, so that's kind of the phases that I follow when I'm doing a psychic reading, intuitive reading. And so psychic just means knowing. It just means knowing and the ability to use extrasensory perception to pull out information to guide people. So it's kind of like, we've talked about this before, it's kind of like looking down at a person's life from 30,000 feet, and you're able to see the full view of what's happening and tell them exactly what's going on now. So my process is to zoom in to you and then being able to zoom out to your life to tell you exactly how to use the tools that you have and what resources you need to go get in order to shift from where you are now to the next phase, which is why anybody ever wants an intuitive reading in the first place, is to get answers on, their healing journey. What should I do? What's going to serve my highest and best good? What's going to get me closer to what I want? Yes. So, and that's different. So all mediums are psychic and not all psychics are mediums. How is psychic ability different than the mediumship abilities? Mediumship is our ability to connect to spirit. This is different. Now I'm not necessarily penetrating you. I'm being open to receiving guidance and messages from whoever's in the room with me, whoever wants to come through.
Yeah.
This is very important for people to know. Your guides, your loved ones, they want to talk to you. They want to talk to us. They want to communicate with us. Your parents, Lacey, want to talk to you. My father wants to talk to me. The people that I facilitate for, they have loved ones that want to come through, that want to offer messages, that want to offer support and encouragement, and they want to remind you that you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
That you have this support coming from the spirit realm. And so this is a different type of intentionality that we create, an open-hearted, relaxed, and settled, energetic experience where we can trust the messages that are coming through. And this is where it gets very important to be able to distinguish the difference between your imagination and what you're actually seeing. And the way to do this is to not interpret. Just see what you see, feel what you feel, and say it as it is.
Yes.
Right? That's how we start developing. We're going to practice that in our partner exercises during the 8-week Way of the Mystic course.
That'll be great. I'm excited to be with all the like-minded people, and I feel like that's something, a lot of people wanting to develop intuitive abilities, you have that loneliness feeling. You're not sure who to talk to or who to practice with or who to connect with. So I'm excited for the community as well.
Yeah, me too. It's great. All right, let's see if we have any chats here, any questions. Anybody want to be brave enough to get an intuitive reading on the spot? It's okay. It takes a lot of courage to come forward. So, and if you decide to ask a question, we are here. You can ask at any time. The chat is open. All right, good. So, how do you envision the mediumship work helping you on your healing journey? What is that? Why is that something that you want to learn how to do?
Yeah, so I think, I have done a lot of work to get to where I am. I've done a lot of the limiting beliefs, the inner child work, the shadow work, and I'm at that point in my life where I do want to hold space for other people. And so that's a big thing for me to continue to gain that trust and within my own abilities. So with the mediumship work specifically, I'm excited for that. Obviously to have that connection, I've always, throughout my life and losing my parents, I always got these small signs and messages, and, but my clairs are also starting to develop more. So different, voices and clairaudience and things like that is really where I want to just understand and become stronger with, just so that I have the clear messages, that I don't have those questions, and I can feel like my path is clear and I have that connection at any time that I want.
Yeah. And so do you see yourself using your mediumship skills to guide others, to help others, to hold space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big part. I've done a lot of like human design work, and within my gene keys and my soul contract and, my life path, and holding space for others is a big thing. And I think a part of why I lost my parents so young was for me to understand and hold space for others that are going through that same thing.
100%. I mean, this is ultimately what we're all here to do, is to use our path and our struggles, the things that we've overcome and things that we've been able to heal within ourselves, to help other people. Right. Yeah. And so whether you're drawn to being an intuitive guide or a psychic, or a medium, or any other type of facilitator, any other type of person who is holding space for the personal transformation of another person. I mean, this is ultimately what we're all here to do. In our own unique delivery method, in our own unique way of guiding others. And it's really important to remember that as we're doing this work, is that we're here not only to connect to something bigger than who we are, bigger than ourselves, so that we can live a life that's outside of just the limiting beliefs and the conditioning that we were raised in, to live a life that's fulfilled, but also to be able to serve others with this same information. It's kind of like when you see, I know for me at the early stages of my healing journey, when I saw people really struggling and suffering and really hurting, I could hardly stand it, because you feel like you have this solution, right? That you can share with other people, like hey, there's another way to live. There's another way to do this. Life doesn't have to be this hard. And so being able to just guide others. And that's what inspired me, was just, telling my story and sharing it with other people and using the tools and developing my own intuitive abilities as I went on. If you are a coach, a healer, a facilitator, or a guide, and you're someone who is, wanting to use your own intuition to help other people, I would just set that intention, the intention to be of service, and then watch what comes through. There is your own unique delivery system. Like you said, you've named a bunch. It can be human design. It can be, intuitive work, psychic work. It can be gene keys. It can be life path number. These are all wonderful systems that don't necessarily have the answers within them, but they provoke the process that allows you to arrive at those answers within yourself.
Yes.
They provoke the inner inquiry, which is, these are my roots as a student of non-duality, is sitting in the inquiry and understanding, the essence of myself, like what feels true for me, what feels good to me, what is the thing that brings me the most joy. If we just follow that trajectory, we're able to tune into everything, all of the magic that's available to us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, Lacey, it looks like, I don't know if we're going to have any brave souls ask us any questions tonight, but I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope that our listeners did as well. Let's talk. Let's tell people how to register for the Way of the Mystic, which the registration for that opens tomorrow. Again, if you're curious about developing your intuition or being in a community of like-minded seekers just like you, and you want to learn how to connect beyond this third dimensional reality, connect to your spirit guides, connect to your loved ones, and use your skills for your own life and also to serve other people, we have a wonderful opportunity for you to join us tomorrow. Will you talk more about that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's www.intuitivesabrina.com/the Way of the Mystic. You can find the whole course program there that kind of outlines different exercises and things that Sabrina will be guiding us through. And then there's also an Eager Mystic discount that is available until October 1st, and you'll get 22% off the full price. Just use Eager Mystic code in the checkout, and you'll get that added to the balance.
We should put the link. We should put the link at the bottom. We'll include the link at the bottom of this video. And for anybody who's interested in joining us and diving into some of these practices, we would love to have you.
Yes. And also, if you have any questions for Sabrina, she will be doing some Oracle, an hour Oracle time for intuitive messages.
Yes, every week, every Thursday at 5 o'clock, I will be doing Oracle hour. So if you watched me tonight and you couldn't bring yourself to ask me that question, I will be here every Thursday between 5 and 6, where you can tune in and ask me whatever questions you want guidance on. And I'm happy to offer it and to sort of, help you develop your own skills as well, help you arrive at your own intuitive abilities. I think for tonight, I think it was really important to leave people with just the practice of closing your eyes, breathing, and just sensing into your body and just trusting, asking yourself the question that you want to ask yourself internally, and then just trusting that the answer exists in universal intelligence, and be open to receiving it, whatever serves your highest and best good, with no attachment to the outcome. This is how we do it. This is how we teach you to do it. And this is how you can do it at home.
Love it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We'll see you all. October 17th will be our start date for the program, and I hope to see you all there.
Me too. Thank you, Lacey. I appreciate you.
Bye, Sabrina.
Bye.